a Viking chieftain, dies. For the next 10 days, his clan engages in a whirlwind of ritual sex and heavy drinking, all leading to a final, brutal act, a human sacrifice. And we only know the shocking details because the entire ceremony was witnessed and written down by a horrified diplomat who could barely believe his own eyes. Our witness is Ahmad ibn Fadlan. He was an expert in Islamic law, a sophisticated scholar sent on a diplomatic mission in 921 AD from Baghdad to the Volga Bulgars. But along the Volga River, he ran into a different group entirely. A band of traitors he called the Rusiya. We know them today as the Rus, or more popularly, the Vikings. To Ibn Fadlan's refined tastes, they were an assault on the senses. He admitted they had physiques perfect as palm trees, tall and strong, but he also called them the filthiest of all God's creatures. He was disgusted by their habits, like sharing a single bowl of water to wash their faces and blow their noses in each morning. To him, they were crude, immodest, and totally savage. And yet, he couldn't look away. Then, news arrived. One of their chieftains had died. Ibn Fadlan, a man whose entire life was guided by tradition and law, was about to see a ceremony that broke every rule he knew. He was determined to watch it himself, to see if the wild stories he'd heard about their funerals were true. He had no idea he was about to document one of the most elaborate and brutal rituals ever recorded. For these people, death wasn't an instant event. It was a process, a 10-day limbo between the world of the living and the world of the gods. The chieftain's body was placed in a temporary grave, a pit covered with a wooden roof, where it would lie for 10 days. While he waited, his clan erupted in a frenzy of preparations. His wealth was divided into 3 equal parts. According to their custom, 1/3 went to his family. Another third was used to pay for the magnificent funeral clothes they immediately started sewing. And the final third, it was spent on huge quantities of booze, likely a strong beer or mead, to fuel a 10-day-long party. Ibn Fadlan noted with a mix of shock and morbid fascination that they drank day and night. Some, he wrote, even died with a cup still in their hand. But while most of the clan was lost in a drunken haze of mourning, a question was asked of the dead man's household, specifically to his female slaves. "Who among you will die with him?" From the crowd of slaves, a woman's voice answered, "I." A girl had just volunteered to die. The moment she spoke that word, her fate was sealed. There was no backing out. But her last days weren't spent in fear. Quite the opposite. She was immediately treated like royalty. 2 other women were assigned to guard and serve her, even washing her feet as a sign of respect. She was given the finest food and all the intoxicating drinks she wanted. She spent her final days singing and seemed genuinely happy, given over completely to pleasure. While she was being celebrated, another figure came forward. An old woman Ibn Fadlan described with a sense of dread. He called her a gloomy, corpulent woman, and modern writers have dubbed her the Angel of Death, though Ibn Fadlan never used that name himself. She was the ritual specialist, the grim matriarch in charge of every single detail of the ceremony, from arranging the funeral bed to dealing the final, deadly blow. Her presence meant the main event was about to begin. On the 10th day, the entire community gathered at the river. The chieftain's long ship, the vessel that brought him wealth in this life, was about to become his chariot to the next. It was hauled ashore and placed on a huge platform of wood, like a pyre. On the ship's deck, the old woman directed the placement of a bed, covering it with lavish quilts and cushions of Byzantine silk brocade, proof of just how far these people traveled and traded. Then they exhumed the chieftain's body. Ibn Fadlan noted the cold had preserved him, though his skin had turned dark. They dressed him in spectacular new clothes, trousers, boots, a silk caftan with gold buttons, and a hat trimmed with sable fur. He was carried onto the ship and propped up on the bed with cushions as if he were just taking a rest. Around him, they placed everything he'd need for his final journey: drinks, fruit, and fragrant herbs. His weapons were laid within reach. But the offerings didn't stop there. The ritual demanded blood. A dog was sliced in two and thrown into the ship. 2 horses were run until they were soaked in sweat, then hacked to pieces and their flesh tossed on board. 2 cows, a rooster, and a hen followed, all slaughtered and added to the grim cargo. The ship was no longer a ship. It was a snapshot of the chieftain's world, packed with all the sustenance, wealth, and companions he'd need for the voyage into the unknown. As the sun went down, the ceremony reached its horrifying peak. The volunteer slave girl was brought forward. After being given one last, powerful drink, she began to sing her goodbyes. She was then led to a wooden frame, like a doorway, where men lifted her up 3 times. Each time she claimed to see into the afterlife. First, she saw her parents, then all her relatives, and finally, her master, waiting for her in a green and beautiful paradise. Next came the part of the ritual that seemed to shock Ibn Fadlan most. The girl was taken from tent to tent, where the master of each tent had sex with her. As they did, each man supposedly said, "Tell your master I have done this only for love of him." This wasn't just a wild orgy. Scholars see it as a deeply symbolic act, a ritual transfer of the community's life force and loyalty to their dead leader through the vessel of the sacrificial girl. Dazed and intoxicated, she was finally led to the ship. She seemed to hesitate, but the old woman grabbed her and dragged her aboard. The men standing around the ship began beating their shields with sticks, creating a deafening noise to drown out any cries she might make. On the ship itself, 6 men had sex with her one last time inside the funeral tent before laying her down beside her dead master. 2 men grabbed her feet, 2 grabbed her hands. The old matriarch looped a rope around her neck, handing the ends to 2 men to pull. As they strangled her, the old woman took out a broad-bladed dagger and stabbed her again and again between the ribs until she was dead. She was finally reunited with her master. Now, the final act could begin. The chieftain's closest male relative, completely naked, stepped forward holding a lit torch. Walking backwards, so as not to look upon the dead, he set the wooden platform on fire. Instantly, others rushed in, adding their own flaming branches to the blaze. A strong wind kicked up, and the flames roared to life. Ibn Fadlan wrote that the inferno consumed the ship, the chieftain, the girl, and all the offerings with incredible speed, turning everything to ash. Ibn Fadlan's account gives us a raw, unfiltered look into a world that is so often romanticized. It's a world of intense belief, but also of shocking violence. If you find these real, unflinching stories from history fascinating, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Let us know in the comments what you make of this ritual. Was it an act of honor, or just unimaginable brutality? Over the ashes, the Rus built a round burial mound. At its center, they put up a wooden post and carved the names of their dead chieftain and his king into it, a practice that might have been unique to them. The ritual was over. Later, still trying to process what he'd seen, Ibn Fadlan asked one of the Rus about the ceremony. The man, just laughed at him. "You Arabs are fools," he said through an interpreter. "You take the people you love and honor most and leave them in the dirt for insects and worms to eat. We burn them in an instant so they can enter paradise immediately." That one exchange shows the massive cultural gap between them, where Ibn Fadlan saw a terrifying, barbaric horror show. The Rus man saw a fast and honorable pathway to the afterlife. For them, the fire was a gateway, not an ending. Ibn Fadlan's testimony is so precious because it's real. It shatters the romantic Hollywood image of a flaming ship set adrift at sea, a dramatic scene for which there is basically no evidence. His account describes a ship burial on land, a practice that is confirmed by major archaeological finds, like the Oseberg ship burial. His report gives us a rare, unflinching look into the Viking Age mindset, where death wasn't something to be feared, but something to be met with a blaze of glory, ensuring a leader's power followed him into the next world, no matter the terrible cost.